All right. Good morning. I anticipate obviously a lot of questions about a certain topic. Really don't know anything at this point other than I called Rob at about 9 o'clock this morning just to knew everybody here would ask about it. And he wants to meet midweek this week at some point based on his travel schedule, going to the college football playoff and that whole deal. I asked if we could meet today, and it just didn't work out. So we'll do that and go forward. So all systems are going toward the banquet this afternoon, or kind of the rest of this morning, this afternoon, and then heading out recruiting.
Question, Warren?
Mark, after last night's loss, what kind of reflection did you do overnight? Do you reflect much? How does that affect you with all the things that are going on? All the peripheral noise.
A lot of different thoughts. I guess that's reflective. Just thinking about a million different variables. Obviously, throughout last night.
Next question. Shortest available. Steve.
When you go recruiting with the questions out there, how do you address those with recruits if you're going out and asking? What do you tell them?
It depends. Obviously that this kind of situation occurs. It's not ideal for anybody, but we'll be very honest about everything as as is always our approach in recruiting.
Chantel.
I'm sure after losses, you don't sleep a ton, and at the end of the seasons that aren't great, you don't sleep a ton. What have the last 12 hours been like for you?
Been awake. Got a lot of, a lot of text from a lot of different people on the East Coast, in particular, that probably didn't anticipate me responding. I'm not the Donald Trump midnight guy, or 2, 3 a.m. normally, but just again thinking about a lot of different factors, a lot of different things that have occurred.
Hi.
Did you feel like that midweek conversation with Rob changed based on yesterday's result?
I have no idea. No, I have no idea.
The front, Brian.
Mark, have you talked to Dan Hawkins or anyone that's been through this kind of situation and how to handle it? And if you are retained next year, what do you see this team being like in 2017?
I haven't directly had any of those conversations. I've had indirect, and whether it's text messaging and all those things from a lot of different people that have gone through this. We're a very young football team, very injury riddled football team right now that played a tough schedule, and all those things are almost have to be better. We'll head that direction here in 72 hours.
Kristen.
If you could go maybe 300 feet above the entire season and just kind of, obviously you are recapping the season, but what do you think was the biggest thing that was lacking from this year that you guys have had in years past when you had more success?
I think the just probably playing on the front foot always offensively and having total confidence in what we were doing. And I think, again, by virtue of a little bit of uncertainty at quarterback, some guys up front that played their tails off, but at times had some hiccups. There was some confidence issues. Had a couple drops here and there in key situations, but that fuels everything else. That allows your defense to be aggressive and create more turnovers. Obviously, need to stop the run a lot better. Part of that is simple in terms of. Not simple, but just again the number of injuries we had at key positions up front, guys not available. That matters, and then that affects everything else.
Chantel.
Two-part question, Mark. I know you love these. First part is, what do you tell your assistant sort of in a time like this? Obviously, you can go about business as usual as much as you want, but what do you tell them? And I'll ask the second one after.
Okay. Had a few conversations obviously last night after the game, and then at some point this morning, I can't remember when it was. I just sent out a text message of, hey, I don't, I haven't heard anything from anybody, and just how much I care about those guys and appreciate everything they've done, and that was something to that effect.
And then conversely, have any assistants sort of told you about plans to either retire or if they're taking interviews or looking anywhere?
No, zero.
Guys.
Do you feel like anything's changed with you as a head coach from when Rob decided to extend you to where now we sit today?
Hopefully I'm better, but not that I know of. No.
Mike Scow.
On the topic of leadership within the program, specifically with the players, bundling up this season, how do you use that to instill leadership, to encourage leadership, to get these guys to be vocal and sort of, this season be a teaching moment for them?
Yeah, a ton of those moments occurred, and as we've talked many times, this was a team. This was just a group of guys that there wasn't a lot of natural, natural and credible leadership, and those are guys that are great players, that are naturally vocal, that assert themselves all the time, and there weren't a lot of those guys, and we knew that coming into it. The guys that were the most of that ilk were hurt. And so that element again was gone, but that's where we as coaches have to step in and make that happen. But that can only go so far. It has to happen in the locker room. It has to happen out of this building, out of this facility, every minute of every day. And a lot of guys have already talked about that. Some of the quote unquote quieter guys that they know they need to change.
Have you had a chance during this, with all this, to evaluate your assistants? And you mentioned none have said they're going to retire, but would you anticipate wanting to bring your staff back, or would you foresee staff changes if you return?
I don't foresee staff changes. I think again, there's issues that everybody knows that I think the guys that are in this building and in our program are the best to solve those issues. Yeah.
Okay, Austin.
Mark, I understand the logistics of travel schedules, but is it frustrating for you that there hasn't been more clarity or communication about where things stand?
I think it's not ideal, but this isn't, a lot of things aren't in this situation aren't ideal. And that's, timing of these things, again, that's, it's partly on me, that we're in this situation, but it's not ideal, less than ideal.
Brian.
Mark, since this is a season review, I was just curious, do you expect Crosby to rejoin these freshmen on the offensive line next year? And also, can you identify some freshmen that maybe redshirt that can help fill some holes?
So the first part, I think it would be absolutely in his best interest to come back for sure. I think he's a guy that can get in better shape physically, from a confidence standpoint, taking that weight room stuff and all the other stuff he'll do in the off season to another year of football will help him in the long run. It obviously would help those young guys as well. And then the second, the first person that popped to my mind right when you said that was Brady Breeze, a guy that made a ton of plays all the time in kind of we do a Friday scrimmage every week with our young guys, and he stood out every week.
Krista.
You mentioned you were able to text some of your players in the past 24 hours. Obviously, you're going to a banquet right now where your players will be there. Is there a message, or is this something you're going to address with them? The fact that you still don't know or what's to come?
I don't know. Kind of play the room maybe at that point, but I think this is about honoring this season and the seniors and the outgoing players, and a lot more about them than this situation.
Warren.
Mark, two questions. Can you give any clarity as to, you've said that Farrell Brown has been unavailable these last two games. Can you give any clarity as
Injury.
Okay.
Injury. Season's over. Injury.
That was good. And several of the players said last night that they stand behind you 110%. What does that mean to you going into, the off season and everything that's swirling around you in the program right now?
Well, obviously, those are the most important guys, that we have, and certainly need to augment and supplement those guys with recruiting and finishing that out going forward. But I have a lot of belief in those guys, and I think that's reciprocated.
The front here, Matt.
You said supplementing with recruiting. What would be the areas that you think you need to really target and address this class?
I think, knock on wood, we're in good shape at probably the biggest areas of need, defensive line and defensive back. I think our young linebackers the last 2 years are really exciting in terms of their development. Need to continue to get a couple more skill guys, which I think there's a few guys in the hopper. There's a couple guys that are kind of both, athlete type category guys that play DB and either receiver or tailback, and obviously needed to finish out a couple other positions offensively.
Chantel.
Mark, you've talked a lot about sort of the ebbs and flows of the job, and you're very even keel about it. But is it sort of strange to think that in 2 years, just sort of how different things have been? We were asking you about Marcus and a college football playoff 2 years ago, and now it's your job. It feels fast to me. Does it feel fast to you?
Well, like we talked about the other day, that's this business. Whether it's Charlie Strong is a genius and a defensive guru, and now can't stop anybody is fired. Ron Rivera plays in the Super Bowl, now is fired, or not fired, but not doing as well. Mark D'Antonio, one of the greatest coaches in college football playoff last year, whatever they finished this year, and that's the reality of it. It's a high stakes game in a lot of ways for all of us, and you get certain parts of that, you don't get certain parts of that, but they don't let me vote on all that stuff.
Steve Mims.
With all these jobs, these times there are rumors out there that this person's talking to this person, and there have been some rumors that Oregon's talked to people. Would you want them to tell you if they were looking at people to possibly replace you while you run the job? Would you feel like you should be told what they're doing in this process?
Again, that's something I can't control. Something that if somebody's doing that's their prerogative, and you can't control that.
Anything else? Oh, Ryan.
Mark, obviously, plan A was to win a bunch of games with Dakota, but since you had to throw Justin in there and he started 7 games, what kind of growth do you see for him for next year? Do you feel like Oregon's found its starter for the next 2 or 3 years?
Well, I think his biggest thing is he's never been a truly dedicated football player, and so that will be his biggest phase of growth, is just committing himself in the offseason to total development as a quarterback, and so that'll help him in the weight room, in the classroom, on the field, everything that he does. He was a 3-sport athlete, and you're doing all the things that by season in high school, which I think is awesome. I think more guys should do it, but that is certainly a guy that already is playing at a very high level and can do nothing but gain confidence, and that's something that he needs is just the confidence and just putting his chest out and leading guys will be a byproduct of what he does this offseason.
Andrew or Jen, do you have a question?
Andrew, do you have one?
Yeah, Mark, just when you meet with Rob midweek, what's your pitch to him? Is it just that you are so injury-riddled and young this season, or what do you think your pitch will be to that thing can be turned around?
I don't know. I think that's something that we'll keep to ourselves and go from there.
Jen?
I'm good, thank you.
Guy.
I know you say it's nature of the business and everything about where we sit today, but Oregon has shown over the years that they're a little different, show a little more understanding with their head coach and maybe one down year. Do you feel like you're getting a fair look right now, or are you a little surprised? You grew up on this team, you've been through seasons like this as a fan. Are you a little surprised about how quick maybe the leash was?
Fair is such an odd word. I don't know. We needed to win more games this year, and I get that. There's a lot of factors involved there. But all that stuff is up for debate and determination by people that aren't me. So that I think we've got a great team coming back, very talented team coming back, and that's exciting.
One more question. Lauren? Yep.
Maybe a little positive here. Mark, going into next year, what are some of the positive changes that you would like to see done to get you guys bigger, better, faster, more wins? What are some of the off-season plans that you would like to enact?
Well, that's all part of it right there. It's a constant play of recruiting, development, and scheme. And development is mental, it's physical, it's psychological. It's schematically, it's fitting those square pegs in square holes and round things in round holes, and getting all the people in the right spots. And obviously that starts in recruiting, and then weight room, training room, the whole sports performance side of it. We need to ramp up and figure out why were there this many X injuries and so forth, and why did that maybe occur at a higher rate this year than others? I don't know. So that's something you do every off season, and then in particular, I think those two things, the development phase is something that absolutely we need to figure out.
Thank you.
Thanks.